You say, what do you know? It's the Team NBS NFC halftime show. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. We're going to bring the Team NBS crew on right now. Philadelphia Eagles, my sleeper team. I'm so pumped up. Is up 21-7 right now over San Francisco. We have a ton of talk about, and make sure to check out the halftime show. We're also doing a halftime show between the Bengals and the Chiefs. That should be a crazy game, just like this one. Let's bring them on. Joe Cardoza, Brock Vieira. How are you guys today?
How's it going, Monty? Doing good.
Doing good,
Brock?
Monty.
Good. Let's get right to it, Joe. Look, I have the video here. I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to play well, but you hate to see injuries. I don't care if you're rooting for a team. So
really hit. That is an open hand. That is a fumble, Kevin.
Brock Purdy gets injured, Joe. Now, if I'm the 49ers, I've been saying this all year. In a close game, your only choice now is to give McCaffrey the ball 35 times, 35 touches, because let's be honest, Johnson has played for 13 teams in 15 years. What's the mindset of the 49ers?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Monty. I mean, he's a fourth-string quarterback for a reason. No disrespect. I know we all would give an arm to be in the NFL, but you're fourth string for a reason. So I think if I'm San Francisco, it's run CMC. It's jet sweeps to Debo to get him the ball as well. But I don't think putting the ball in Josh Johnson's hands and having him throw the ball 25, 30 times is a recipe for victory. What San Francisco needs to do as a defense needs to stop with all these silly penalties, because their defense, if you think about how they played this whole season, should be keeping them in this game. When you take a look at the stats, they're not really alarming. I mean, the Eagles aren't blowing them away when it comes to total yards or rushing. It's just a lot of dumb penalties. And then, of course, a costly turnover. Worst case scenario for San Francisco.
Okay, Brock, let's talk about that. I don't understand what's going on here. San Francisco gets the ball back to start the second half. You have a fourth-string quarterback. You're trying to score. Kyle Shanahan, with all that talent, is one of the most conservative coaches out there. Why the hell are you trying to score with under 2 minutes left?
You know, I think the thought process was that if you can get a field goal, then you get the ball to start the second half. You can potentially score a touchdown, and they're able to take a lead on a scoring play. That's the only thing I can think of in this situation. At the end of the day, no matter what strategy you have, even if Brock Purdy was in, the Niners are clearly getting beat on the line of scrimmage. Mike McGlinchey has played an absolutely horrific game. Hassan Reddick has been in that backfield more times than I can count. And shout out to our good friend Greg Rector. It is pretty typical of a Notre Dame offensive lineman to truly play poor when the lights shine brightest on him.
And by the way, Greg talking trash. A sleeper team is not a playoff team from the previous season. That's just a Dallas Cowboy fan being angry at me for my Eagles. But Joe, one of the things that has shocked me, okay, we talk about the physicality of the 49ers defense. It's menacing. 3 straight touchdowns inside the 10. Let me play the first scoring drive with the video. All two, Sanders and the last touchdown, the running backs were.
And it off. Sanders walks in. Touchdown, Eagles.
Joe, inside the 10. And one of the things I love about the Eagles, they have the best offensive line, arguably, in the NFL. Same with the Detroit Lions, whose offensive line really got better the second half of the year. Joe, they're pushing them around inside the red zone. I don't expect that from San Francisco's defense.
Yeah, it's kind of what you expect when you go to Philadelphia. People talk about that Philly, that South Side Philly beatdown. That's what they're giving the 49ers right now. Just blowing them off the ball. And like you said, the running backs aren't like you look at McCaffrey's touchdown run, running over people, having to break tackles. The Eagles running backs aren't doing any of that. They're skipping, cartwheeling, doing backflips into the end zone. Just something the 49ers are going to have to figure out. I mean, I'm sure the initial shock of, hey, we lost our starting quarterback. Now we got the backup quarterback in. Probably affected those guys for maybe a play, 2 plays at most. After that, you got to get back to sound, fundamental football. That hasn't happened. I know that Peyton Manning said halftime adjustments don't happen, but I think Kyle Shanahan needs to make a couple in ASAP.
Well, Brock, this goes along to my next point. When you play better competition, you start to make stupid penalties because you're out of position. You're panicking. You're not used to getting pushed around. What is up with all these penalties?
I honestly don't know because the San Francisco 49ers defense held strong for the most part after the first drive of the football game for the Eagles. They backed them up into the end zone, held them on multiple downs when the offense was stalling out. And then when you had those last couple of drives, it just all fell apart. It really just takes one to have a rolling effect in the NFL, and that's exactly what we're seeing. The main difference in this game isn't really the quarterback situation. It's more the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles aren't losing this game compared to the 49ers losing this game, right? Because the Eagles are doing everything correct, and the Niners, when one thing goes wrong, multiple things go wrong. And we saw that both offensively and defensively in this game.
Spot on.
Brock, you're one of my favorite guests because of how you break the game down. But I feel like I'm looking at you in your witness relocation program right now because it's so dark. What is going on? You've been on my show 3 times. Why can't we see your beautiful face?
Unfortunately, I am in witness relocation because I pissed off too many Cowboys fans. There's actually, on some forums, they have me dead or alive, preferably dead. No, but the real talk is that I'm here with my significant other and we have to babysit. So I am doing this show currently on the road. That's why.
Right. That is fine. Listen,
I can respect
your
that.
voice and knowledge is good enough. All right, Joe. So when I broke this game down, I said that Brock Purdy struggled last week against Dallas. I didn't expect him to come in and outplay Jalen Hurts. If I'm the Eagles right now, I don't want to be conservative because you don't want to give the 49ers any confidence. We know they have weapons. But you got to feel good right now because Jalen Hurts hasn't played his best game, but they are physically pushing them around. What do you say to them at halftime? You get another turnover, this could be lights out with the 4th-string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm the coach of the Eagles, I say, remember what happened with the Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The game is not over. Like we talked about, 49ers defense is pretty much borderline elite. They're getting great pass rush, Monty. The problem is the guys in the secondary can't stop holding and touching people after 5 yards. If they can fix things in the back end, that front 4 is having enough pressure, making things uncomfortable for Jalen Hurts. If I'm the Eagles, the game is not over. We need to get another touchdown, maybe even 2 more to really put a nail in the coffin on this thing. And like you said, it's all gas, no brakes. This is the NFC Championship game. There's no pity points. There's no mercy. If you score 50, you put a 50 burger on them, you put a 50 burger on them. The next game you play is the Super Bowl.
That's a great point. Brock, again, when you play better competition, when stuff happens, you got to be aware. Don't tell me a Bill Belichick, don't tell me an Andy Reid is not challenging this play. When it happened, I said it was not a catch. I said it. How does San Francisco not challenge that right away on a big 4th down that could have changed the start of this game and the momentum around? What is Shanahan doing on the sidelines if it's not challenging this play?
That's a great question because whenever you don't challenge this play, that's because you want to conserve your timeouts. But at the same time, he's had multiple delay of game calls without burning those timeouts as well. Yeah. It's a very confusing thing happening with Kyle Shanahan right now. I initially thought it was a catch, but as soon as Devontae Smith got up and started running to the line, that's when I threw my challenge flag. Because if the receiver doesn't believe he caught it, he didn't catch it. It was a big mismanagement of Kyle Shanahan, and unfortunately, that's the story of this game. And if we look back at his career, the story of his career, we can look at the Atlanta Falcons, we can look at the first Super Bowl, we can look at last year's NFC Championship game. We can talk about the dropped interception by Jaquiski Tartt, but there's a lot of things that occurred that you can point at Kyle Shanahan and say, what are you doing, man? This is another example, and if you look at the way this game has gone, it is all just what are you doing, Kyle? And that's kind of the summary of this game. What are you doing, Kyle, when Nick Sirianni is doing everything correctly?
Well, yeah, and Joe, going into this matchup, I've said this numerous times on my show, I wasn't 50-50 on this game. I thought at home the Eagles would win, but if I'm ever not sure, I go from who has a better quarterback, who has a better coaching combo. Going in, everyone keeps telling me Shanahan is a genius. How can you be a genius when you haven't won a Super Bowl yet? And he's being outcoached right now.
Yeah, he's definitely got a nice slice of humble pie he's had. I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. I mean, take a look what he's done with a lot of young quarterbacks. He has multiple young quarterbacks he's taken over under his wing that have had some really solid seasons. But to Brock's point, man, when it's big time and the pressure is on, my man has been anything but stellar. So that's the monkey on his back. Can you get yourself over the hump? And if they can get a big turnover here early, San Francisco, capitalize off that turnover and get some points, you're right back in this game. But like I said, you can't afford to give up any more points. I mean, the reason why the Jags came back against the Chargers, the main reason was obviously they scored points. a little bit more difficult to score points with your fourth-string quarterback starting.
Now, Brock, would you suggest, again, Joe said it earlier, you got to throw the kitchen sink. Would you run the Wildcat with Debo? Would you use McCaffrey as the quarterback and run and just say, look, we have a fourth-string quarterback, probably doesn't know the playbook all that well.
Nope.
Would you just say, listen, we're going to run the ball 50 times, 1950s University of Army football, and that's how we're gonna do it.
Wing T, baby.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you know, honestly, I don't pull out the Wildcat because then you kind of leave yourself exposed to that great Eagles defensive line and the brilliant secondary they have behind them. To me, you get back to basics. You put Kyle Juszczyk in the backfield, that's blocking for Christian McCaffrey, and you run the ball at them. You put Deebo Samuel in the backfield, even pull out Tevin Coleman because he was activated today. Don't be surprised if they do that and then suddenly CMC does like a halfback toss is actually going to be a halfback pass, just to kind of mix it up. At the end of the day, I know how much you don't like that term, Monty, but it's true. At the end of the day, Josh Johnson has his limits, but he also has his advantages. He's much more mobile than Brock Purdy ever was. You can always put in the read option, RPO plays. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You just got to do them now. But the main issue with the Niners isn't the quarterback. It actually stems back to the fact that they traded away all their draft picks for Trey Lance and also now for Christian McCaffrey. This is a team that's struggling to have replace talent at multiple positions, and it's showing. Mike McGlinchey isn't playing that good. The interior offensive line for the Niners can be suspect at times, and Hassan Reddick is having an absolute field day on them.
Field day.
So they're very top heavy, but you need to have a balanced attack, and that's what the Eagles have. If you look at the way they built their team, especially through the draft, and especially the pieces they picked up through trades and free agency, it's well balanced. They have replacement players at every level, and that's the story of this game of why they're playing so much better. They have better players, more depth, and better coaching.
Joe, if I'm the Eagles, I'm loving life right now because my best player, Jalen Hurts, has 97 yards. Okay? Yep. He's 13 of 19, so he hasn't had, a lot of incompletions. The running game is working, but this is where you set up the play action. This is where you get Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert over the middle. Look for them to do play action now because I got to assume that DeMeco Ryans is saying, we got to stop the run. Let's stack the box.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I think you're going to hear from A.J. Brown. He's way too talented not to be a factor in this game. I know that, especially with him and Ward, John, before the game started going back and forth, because of that trash talk, he's going to want to make a big play. Smith's used to this. I mean, I think Brock will agree with me. When you go to Alabama, the NFC Championship game is just another game to you when you're used to playing in front of those big crowds. Just got to give them the opportunity to get the ball. I think you're right with that, Monty. I think you're going to see a play-action pass and a deep ball from the Eagles, probably early in the third quarter.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Okay, the game's about to start. Real quick, Joe, the secondary lineup, we're going to be coming at you at halftime of the AFC Championship game. Who wins this game, Joe?
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs for the second game. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Everybody knows I'm a big Joe Burrow fan, but I just think Patrick Mahomes has heard enough, man. When you got the mayor of Cincinnati trash talking you, all this stuff on social media, the Chiefs have been pretty quiet. They want to get out in the field, show what they can do on the field.
Brock, how concerned are you? I said that if I'm the Bengals, I blitz up the middle against Patrick Mahomes. If he has a bad ankle, if they blitz him from the outside, he could step up into the pocket. But moving laterally when you have a bad ankle is hard. How concerned are you about Patrick Mahomes' injury? Who wins and why?
I'm somewhat concerned, but at the same time, Andy Reid has had a week to know what his injury status is, and they have all been game planning. There's a lot of good offensive minds in that room. Reid, Bieniemy, Matt Nagy, Patrick Mahomes. They're going to figure it out. Not big of that concern. But I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't see Andy Reid losing another championship game that would make 7 losses in the championship game. I don't see it. And the Bengals, when they're favored, they typically aren't the same team. Right now, everyone has love for the Bengals. It's a lot different story than last year. I'm taking the Chiefs.
By the way, Joe Burrow, 11-0 in temperatures under 45 degrees. It's going to be about 31 in Kansas City. I had the Chiefs in preseason going to the Super Bowl. I don't think Mahomes is that healthy. I'm taking the Bengals. They have won 10 in a row. Make it 11, and we'll see you at halftime, guys. That's it? I left you speechless?
You always do, Monty.
All right, guys. Great job. Make sure to tune in at the halftime of the Bengals versus the Chiefs. We'll see you at halftime. Great job, guys.